Alrighty, let's try this again. Again, I'm attempting an interview with Kevin LePage, a former NASCAR Winston Cup competitor. Let's try this again.
Matrix Line Landscaping.
Hey, is this Kevin?
This is him.
Are you free right now to after?
I am, sir.
Alrighty, and since it looks like that your schedule is kind of a little bit short, I've decided to reduce the interview to just 10 questions. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that'll work.
Alrighty. My first question is, where are you originally from?
Shelburne, Vermont.
Nice. What is it like there?
It's beautiful in the summer for about 30 days, and then winter comes. No, seriously, it's a nice small state. A lot of mountains. Good skiing in the wintertime, and beautiful sunny summers, and just a small little state.
Nice. I'm originally from Estes Park, Colorado.
Okay, well, it's got a lot of similarities to Colorado.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Alrighty, my next question after that is, what made you get into motor racing?
Well, years ago, when I was a kid, my dad used to drag race at the local track, and I was a big gearhead then. And as he got out of racing, we went to our local track to with our record, and I just love watching cars go around. And my brother started racing, older brother started racing 5 years before I did, and then he got married, and I took his ride over, and just, the rest is history.
Nice. What was the significance of your Busch team's number 71?
Well, actually, it's a funny story. We came down here, and I raced up north. Started my career with number 17, and I came south. I applied for 17, and they said 17 was taken, so they gave me 71. So it was Daytona. Robbie Reiser and Matt Kenseth team, they wanted 71, and they said that the number was taken, and they gave them 17. So it was a short period of time. Both of us wanted our own numbers, but for whatever reason, we didn't get them. So that's why I ended up with 71.
Nice. What was driving for Buzz McCall's team like in 1998, American Equipment Racing?
The Caterpillar car?
Yeah, the Caterpillar one, yeah.
Yeah, I drove only one race for him. I think they were looking at doing a different driver, or just trying to evaluate their program. David Green was their driver. And we went to Richmond, had a really solid day. Had a fast race car. I think we finished in the top 15. I'm not exactly sure. I honestly thought it was going to turn into longer races or more races, but it didn't happen. But it definitely, he had the team that should have competed a whole lot more, and then for wins than what it did.
All right. What was driving for Roush Racing like?
It was interesting. I mean, we were back then. We were a 5-car team. We had 2 teams. Mark Martin and Jeff Burton's cars were housed out of Mooresville. Myself and Johnny Benson were housed out of Liberty, North Carolina, and Chad Little was housed out of Mooresville. For the first couple of years, we were doing a lot of traveling, meetings and that stuff, and then when we finally moved to Roush Racing in Concord, where all 5 teams were, I only lasted a year, and then they shut the team down. Jack was an awesome guy. Still to the day we remain friends, and there was times that me the equipment to win races, that's for sure.
Nice. So were those the good years of your racing career, like the best years of your career?
You know, yes and no. You know, I had solid races at Morgan McClure.
Uh,
You know, we had a lot of fast race cars. You know, we went through some major body changes with Pontiac and Chevrolet. We had fast race cars on a lot of speedway races and just got caught up in the big one. We had some fast mile and a half cars and, you know, bad pit stop here or an untimely caution, you know, cost some good finishes. The Nation Red car with Jim Smith, we had very fast Fords. You know, we ran about every racetrack that we went to with them, and I think I ran about a half a dozen races with them. You know, we qualified in the top 10, you know, ran in the top 10 and, you know, bad pit stop or, you know, something fell off the car. So, you know, we had multiple cars, race teams that we ran good. And then I had my own team, my own Bush team, when I came down here. And then, you know, when we got hired with David Ridland, who gave me my first win at Homestead. You know, we had awesome Chevrolets and probably should have won a dozen or so races. And again, just circumstances were out of our control on a lot of them. You know, being on pit road, leading, and caution comes out, put you down a lap. I mean, just crazy thing. But
yeah.
I mean, I would say that the 500 some odd races I've drove in NASCAR, all of them were defining moments in my career.
Nice. What was your reaction to Scott Pruitt winning the pole at Watkins Glen in your car?
It was awesome. I mean, we expected to win the race. We went up there. We put a lot of effort in that car for Scott. We went up and tested for 2 days, and we knew our only competition was going to be Ron Fellows. And when we went up to the race, I wasn't there. I wasn't there for qualifying. I went up the day of the race, and we got the pole, and they dropped the green flag, and Scott was gone. And after about 10 laps, he come over the radio and he says, I'm running out of brakes. What did you guys do? And I'm like, well, we put all new stuff on this thing. I mean, I don't know, you know. And he managed to finish, not sure, I think it was a top 10 finish, top 5, something like that. And the following week, we were at a racetrack, and Ron Bell's crew chief came over and said, I got to tell you, you know, we found something in brake pads that you guys, we didn't want to tell you guys because you guys were going to beat us. And what happened was the brake pads that we needed to run were no longer made out of country. They were made in the United States. And they had to eliminate some of the asbestos on it. And they found an old set of brake pads, and they put them in Ron's car just before they got to the racetrack. And that was the only reason why Ron won that race. I mean, crew chief said Ron was mad as heck on the radio because Scott was pulling away from waving to him going up through the S's. That's how fast their Ford was. But, you know, we put a lot of effort in it, and, you know, Scott did a great job for us, and we were hoping to do a couple more races, but just things didn't work out for us.
All righty. What made you join Morgan McClure Motorsports in 2001?
I was unemployed, and they called me up after, I think, Robbie Gordon left. You know, we had a really good, solid relationship that year, and then they let me go at the end of the season, and I don't know, I think it was Skinner or Spencer they put in. And then about a year later, they called me back up to go back in that car, and their biggest regret was to let me go the first time. And, you know, I feel bad for the organization because it was an organization that still should be in the sport today.
Yeah.
But being up in Virginia, the top 35 rule came in, which they were 36 when that rule was implemented. Penske took their sponsor, just a lot of things that hurt that organization. But I really enjoyed racing for that group, and still remain friends with those guys today.
Alrighty. That's good to hear that you're still friends with them. And what was driving for Bob Jenkins like, front row?
Bob was, when I got there, Bob was just getting his feet wet in the sport. He was a guy who enjoyed racing, had a little bit of money, and wanted an experienced driver in there to help get the program where it needed to be. And unfortunately, we had some behind-the-scenes stuff that was going on that crew chiefs wanted to bring their own driver in and not me. And Bob would call me up and ask me, what my opinion was, and I would tell him, and then he asked the crew chief, and he'd get a different answer. But then Bob would call me back and say, hearing two different stories, and I'm like, Bob, I got nothing to lie to you about. My career's on the downhill side. Some of these guys, are looking to stay in the business, working wise, whatever. I really don't care. If you want to fire me, you can fire me. But I'm just telling you, this is what direction we need to go. And it lasted a few more months, and then, they went a different direction. But, Bob's a good friend of mine. Later, after we got out of the Cup car, we did an Xfinity program together for a few races. And just a really nice guy.
That's pretty cool. And this is my last one I'm going to ask, because it looks like, your schedule is a little bit tight. So.
I got plenty of time.
Oh, well then I think I can probably add a few more questions then, probably. Okay. Alrighty. So what was driving for Beth Morgenthau like?
Tony and Beth are great people. Unfortunately, they were out-of-sight car owners. They'd only show up for the races. They wouldn't be at the shop during the day, during the week. And we had some very fast race cars. Just unfortunately, we had some wrong people in the mix, starting from general manager to the parts guy down to crew chiefs. I mean, just a lot of different people that didn't need to be in the position that they were in. And again, another fine car owner that left the sport way too early.
Alrighty. What is racing at the Daytona 500 like?
Back in the day, it was awesome. I mean, we used to love going down there. All the cars were different. You could tell the manufacturers, if you're running a Ford or a Chevrolet or a Pontiac or a Dodge, each car would react different behind another car, so you'd be out there in the draft trying to figure out what car you could race with the next day. We finished ninth in the Daytona 500 and had a car that realistically should have been top five, but they had a caution late in the race, and it just got everybody bunched up. But we were, for an underdog team, under-finance team, that was a big deal for us that day.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Finishing ninth at Daytona was pretty cool, it looks like.
Absolutely.
What was driving for Joe Falk like in 1998, LJ Racing?
Actually, started back in 97. He called me up and wanted me to go to New Hampshire. And we went up to New Hampshire and practiced well all day. We were in the top 20, which was the best that car had been. And we went in the qualifying, we went through 1 and 2. And on the lap tractor, we were fourth fastest. And unfortunately, we carried so much speed, we got down in 3 and 4. And his first time in a Cup car, we overdrove the corner, slid up the racetrack, and missed the race. So he said, you were very impressive. He said, we'll go to Charlotte, and we'll get down there and test. And if you're fast enough, we'll go back to the race. So we went down there, we tested. We left the night place right behind Ryan Newman in the Penske car.
Ooh.
And went back for the race and qualified top 10, top 15, which was the best qualifying to date in that car.
Ooh.
And, Joe was excited, so he hired me for the off season. We brought in a crew chief, Doug Riker, went to Daytona, starting off for Rookie of the Year, and I don't remember when it was, probably half a dozen races into the season, we got a phone call to go drive for Roush.
Ooh.
And I was honest with Joe. I mean, I told him point blank, he gave me an opportunity that probably nobody else would have. I said, I've got an opportunity to go race for Roush, but the seat doesn't open for another month. I'd like to stay in the car and help you out, until you find a driver. And he said, oh, yeah, no problem, And we went to Sonoma, qualified the car in Sonoma, came in race morning, and Tommy Kendall was getting in my car, and I was fired right out of California.
Alrighty. That makes sense. And what was your reaction to leading your first laps in Winston Cup competition at Pocono?
Anytime you can lead a lap, no matter where you are, it's just exciting. My whole career is full of excitement. There's a lot of firsts for me, especially being from Vermont. First Vermonter to lead a cup race, first Vermonter to win a Busch Series race, first Vermonter to win a Cup pole. Just a lot of firsts, and something that I'm very proud to represent the state like I did.
That's good on you. And what was Jack Roush's reaction to you winning the pole in Atlanta?
He's actually surprised, because even though, I was a team car, there was a pecking order there. I was most generally third or fourth, sometimes even fifth depending on what racetrack we went to. And, for us to win the pole was exciting. And then, we ended up being in the Bud Shootout the following year, which was cool. We had back tools on the car for a one-off deal. So, just not winning the pole was just the one thing. We ended up having to go run the Bud Shootout, so we had to sell a speedway car for there. So, just a lot of positives out of it.
That's great to hear. And that sounds like you had a lot of fun. And what was it like finishing fifth at Darlington?
It was one of my favorite racetracks. I loved Darlington from the first time I went there. The year we finished fifth, it was 2 years combined, 4 races. We were the only driver, and those are the years I was at Roush, were the only driver to finish in the top 10, 4 races in a row, and be on the lead lap 4 races at the end in a row. So we had a setup there. I loved the place. Would have won that race if we didn't have rain out. That's it. One during the rain, but we passed him 2 or 3 different times throughout the day, and unfortunately Mother Nature got us that day, but we had a fast forward there.
Wow. So yeah, what led to your departure from Roush?
Sponsorship issues. We didn't have a Prime Star was leaving, TV Guide was leaving, and they were struggling to find a sponsor for me. They worked really hard to find one, and just couldn't put it together.
Alrighty. What was your crew chief, Scott Eggleston, like?
Scott, I worked with Scott a couple different times. I worked with him at Roush. I worked with him over at BAM. I worked with him at Front Row. I even worked with him at Morgan McClure. We worked good together. When he asked me a question, I gave him an answer, and he was able to fix it. If he second-guessed himself, he always asked me, and we talked about it. Came up with a game plan.
Pretty cool. What was being an owner-driver like in the Winston Cup?
Well, back in the day, I only ran one race, I believe, as an owner-driver. And we had a lot of help. Doug Yates gave me a motor. I should say gave me a motor, but he rented me a motor and go to the 600 and qualified top 15 in my own car. And we just had a lot of help. We had to throw together a pit crew and open up a lot of eyes. I think that's what made me stay in the Cup Series, a few more years, and where, we took this car that was an old Grand Prix car that didn't make Indy with Shauna Robinson, and we put it together, went to Charlotte. Like I said, ran in top 15. I think we finished top 20. Not 100% sure.
Cool. What was driving the 57 car for Ted Campbell like?
Ted was a fun guy. The crew was fun. Even though they only ran a limited schedule, their goal was to come full time. And we had some very, very, very fast Fords there. Very fast Fords. And just a great guy. I wish Ted would be able to put this thing together, because he would have been a fun car owner in NASCAR today.
Yeah. What's the difference between racing at Talladega and Daytona Speedway?
Back in the day, Daytona was a handling racetrack. Talladega, you just kept your foot on it all day long and just run wide open. A lot more room. So I always look forward to going to Daytona, because I seem to be able to drive a slick, wore-out racetrack better than Talladega, even though I ran good at both of them.
That's cool. Yeah, they're both, if I remember right, they're both super speedways where drafting is common.
Mm-hmm.
What is road course racing like?
It was different. I did a little bit up in Vermont at the old Loudon, New Hampshire racetrack. We did some road racing up there. I liked it because it gave us a change of pace. I never really quite figured out Sonoma. Love Watkins Glen. We were able to go to Mexico City with the Xfinity program, and I just love road racing. Again, we had a car that should have won at Watkins Glen with Morgan McClure. We had a $2 park bail on us on the brakes. And, cost us a good finish.
What year was that?
I don't remember, to be honest with you. It's just we were running third behind Terry Labonte and Ricky Rudd, and all of a sudden the brakes gave out on me, and we came down pit road and put the brake fluid in. By that time, we lost a lap. And just a tough day, and Larry was mad as heck when we got done, because we had a car that should have won, or at least top 5. And next thing I know, we got to the race shop on Tuesday, and they found the part failure in the brake. And Larry changed his tune then, because the brake pads looked brand new. I wasn't hard on the brakes, just what they call a banjo fitting. It's supposed to be brass, and the guy put an aluminum one in, and when it got hot, it just melted it.
Alrighty. What is racing in Mexico City like?
I probably wouldn't do it again. Air travel was good getting there, but just going through customs and dealing with 26 million people in Mexico City, getting to and from the racetrack, to and from the airport. It was just the racetrack itself was fun, but just the area was something I would go back to.
Alrighty. And what was racing for Tad Geschechter like at ST Motorsports?
I ran for Tad a couple different times. One time, I think Robert Presley got hurt. We were at South Boston. We had a really good car. And then we put a deal together to go to Homestead and out-qualified all their team cars, and actually ran very well down there. Another racetrack that I love. So, I was happy to see Tad make it in the business. He puts a lot of effort into it, dealing with sponsors and stuff, and he's been successful in it.
Yeah, did you hear that Allmendinger won for the team in the Cup Series a few years back?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that was one of the races that I liked that year where I was accepting of the outcome, if you know what I mean. Because I Allmendinger really deserved it. No other way
yeah,
to put it.
yeah,
And it was really amazing. You got to give Allmendinger one for being able to make that comeback from his doping issue in 2012.
yeah, yeah. Once you make a mistake, it's tough to come back, but he did.
Yeah, and not only that, but he became a Cup Series winner, which was really amazing.
Yeah.
What was racing the Truck Series like compared to the Cup or Busch Series?
It reminded me a lot of Saturday Night Racing. Just relax. Uh, I tested one of the first trucks that ever became uh, before they even started a series down in Disneyland, and always wanted to run them. Fortunate enough, I ran for Bobby Dotter a handful of races, and again, I was hoping that when I retired from Cup or Xfinity, that I would have opportunity to go truck racing, and I just stayed too long in the Xfinity program, and went to a truck deal. But I was trying to get some more wins in, and just never worked out.
Yeah, that's tough. What NASCAR series did you enjoy best between Winston Cup, Busch, or Truck Series?
To be honest with you, all of them.
Yeah.
We had great fans at every race that we went to. I had success in all of them. I never won a Cup race, but I came close so many times, and I could go back and name probably 2 dozen races that we should have won. I can tell you what happened and what lap it happened. So, all three of them were good to me, and I can't say one was better than the other.
Yeah, a lot of drivers have told me the same thing. Yeah. What's your favorite classic film involving race cars between The Love Bug, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and The Last American?
Probably Days of Thunder.
Oh yeah, that would be on that list. Yeah, because it's
Just
classic.
because it was more current, and the race shop, was not far from where I live here in Forestville. So that would probably be the one.
Yeah, I might need to start adding Days of Thunder to that list when I ask questions because all the other drivers are telling me the same thing. Days of Thunder is the best.
Yeah.
So I might need to start adding that on my list of questions, Days of
Probably.
Thunder. What was the feeling of racing in the Gatorade duels that qualify the cars for the Daytona 500?
They were, before they had the lock-in, they were more of a strategy race, trying to get yourself high enough to get a good pit stop. But when they started to have to race your way in, they only gave 2 spots. That's when it really became challenging, both mentally and physically, because you had to be on top of your game. And fortunate enough for us, we always made those races by bringing good race cars and made the right changes and the right decisions at the right time.
Alrighty, pretty cool. What was your reaction to finishing 9th at Daytona in 2005?
Again, for an underfunded team with a race car that had never qualified for a speedway race, I was happy for the car owners.
Alrighty.
They would put a lot of money into it, and they just gave us the best what they could, and it was a fun race.
Alrighty, that's pretty cool. And again, it's pretty cool to see the underdogs perform very well. And
been there, done.
Go ahead.
I said I've been there, done that.
All right. What was racing for R&J Racing like?
That's the team that we raced for at Daytona and finished 9th with.
Oh, okay. All right. So, what was the biggest disappointment of your racing career?
I would say not being a cup winner.
Yeah.
That we should have won a bunch. Um, just let some of them slip away. Both I made mistakes, team made mistakes, and NASCAR made some mistakes. So I mean, it was not one particular thing, just a disappointing thing that we never got.
Yeah. All right. Are you religious at all? And if so, how has it impacted your career?
Well, yeah, I am religious, Catholic. Um,
Uh,
I always said a prayer before I started the car, and because I always told people that, when I was racing, when I got in my race car, I got in my office or I got in my coffin. I just didn't know what day was going to happen. So,
all righty.
left my life in God's hands.
Yeah. That's good on you, man. I really like that. I'm Christian, so it's a similar thing. I'm similar to you in that. Alrighty, so this is my last question on my list, which we ended up covering the whole interview after all, which I'm grateful for. But this is my last one on the list. And it is, what are you doing now that your career in NASCAR might be over?
Well, when I was still racing, I bought a small landscape company because I knew racing wasn't going to be forever. And I grew it from 25 customers to over 100 customers. And I'm a guy that stays back in the office and does all the mechanic work and does all the billing and estimating and stuff. And when the guys need me, I'll go out and work with them. I mean, I enjoy being outside. That's why I bought a landscape company. Just kind of take it easy and play a lot of golf and just enjoying life after NASCAR, which a lot of people don't understand that there is a life after NASCAR, but there is.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what is hospice again?
Pardon me?
Didn't you say hospice, or did I misheard that? And if so, what's hospice?
No, I didn't. I don't know what you're saying.
Oh, okay, never mind. I must have misheard something you said. I apologize for that.
Oh, no worries.
Alrighty. Thank you for your time, and I'll let you know.
What are you going to use this stuff for?
Oh, if I didn't say it already on social media, I'll say it again. If you're okay with it, I'm gonna be using it in an ebook I'm writing about motor racing in the United States. I'm doing a whole report on motor racing, such as NASCAR, sports cars, Indy cars, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. When do you hope to have it done?
I hope to have it done hopefully within the next couple years, but I'm kind of focusing my time right now on getting the information by interviewing, people from the sport before I start writing it.
All right, awesome. Well, looking forward to reading it when it's done.
Yep, and whenever it's published, which it's an ebook, so whenever it's published, I'll send it to you through our Facebook Messenger. All right?
All right, bud.
All righty. Thank you very much, Kevin.
All right, bye-bye.
Have a good one. All righty. That turned out well. I think I misheard him on the final thing he said, but, things happen. You make mistakes, live and learn. All righty. So that worked out. Thanks to all who joined me. Hey, followers. I'm attempting an interview with Jean-Francois Demoulin, a connection that I have in the motor racing industry. Let's see how it turns out.
Bill?
Is this Mr. Jean-Francois Demoulin?
Yes, it is.
Hey, this is Doug Kenney, and the guy that we agreed to do a phone chat with. Are you available right now?
Yeah.
Alrighty. I thought I'd start out by telling you a little more about myself. I'm an associate of Mr. Vic Sifton of Canasca Racing, and he was the guy that suggested that I reach out to you about this.
Okay.
Alrighty, so I have a list of questions that hopefully you have the answer for, and they're about your racing career. Hopefully you have the answer for them. And my first one is, where are you originally from?
Quebec.
Nice. How do you pronounce that again?
Eroin.
Ah, alrighty. Alrighty. Rivers, alrighty. What made you get into motor racing?
My dad was involved a little bit in not long in the regional racing, and I always thought this. We have a Grand Prix in our hometown, so it's one of the Grand Prix. I always, race in your hometown every year. It helps. Wanted you to do it, and that's how it all started up.
Alrighty, cool. What series did you participate in before your stock car stint in the Nationwide series?
Actually, Victor helped me in Formula 4. When I raced Formula 1600.
Alrighty. How did you get your... Oh, go ahead.
And then I did Formula Atlantic a little bit, and I started in Motorollah Cup. I did a bunch of endurance racing from 2000 to 2000, 15, I guess you still remember. And I did the Grand Am Cup, and Rolex. I won the Rolex 24 twice, and the Grand Am Cup championship. So I did a lot of endurance racing for a while.
Alrighty. How did you get your NASCAR Nationwide Series ride with Robert Richardson Sr. for the race in Montreal?
Well, I had people helping me out a little bit. There was a little bit of money involved, but I knew some people, so it kind of, with people helping me out, my career, and the deal was really, really good because they wanted a road course driver in a car. So that's how it all ended up. It was pretty fun ride.
How did it feel to finish in the top 10 in your first start?
My only start, pretty much. So yeah, finished awesome. So I get one start nationwide, and I get a top 10. I think to this day, it's still the only top 10 of the team. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you think that if you had an extra 10 laps than it ended, you might have had a chance to win?
No, not for sure. We didn't have a car to win, but
yeah. Alrighty. What's racing in the NASCAR Pinty series like?
The what? Sorry, I didn't get.
What is racing in the NASCAR Pinty series like?
It's fun. It's very competitive. I mean, we have Andrew Ranger, Tagliani, who's the car driver, Kenney, throws the thing with me. I'd rather a bunch of guys that were really competitive in all the series, so we get a really good bunch of drivers from Canada.
Alrighty. What is driving in the NASCAR Rolex Grand Am series like?
I mean, that's still to this day, I love endurance racing. So, I love the competition and everything inside of NASCAR and the way to do things. But the endurance series, and the finesse and all that for me was always something I love. So I love those IMSA endurance all that.
Alrighty. What does IMSA stand for again?
International Motorsport Association.
Alrighty. What is racing
at...
Oh, go ahead.
You can check it out, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Alrighty. Cool. What is racing at Watkins Glen like?
Oh, it's one of my favorite tracks. Like Tremblant, like Elkhart Lake. I love those places.
Nice. What is racing at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course like?
It's another place I love. I won a race also there. I went both places. So,
cool. What is racing at Road America like? Is that another good place of yours?
You mentioned all the track I love the most. I love the old school track. You can't do mistakes, and then you go off track, and I love it. Montport, Tremblant, Road America, Road Atlanta, and Mid Ohio, Walking Sand. That's my kind of track. I love it. But there's other special places like Daytona. Because it has all the Royal 24, it has the 500. There's a lot of things that have been through that place. And obviously, when you win somewhere, you always got a little bit more. But all the old school track, I've won that. I love it.
Nice. What is racing at Most Sport like? Is that a good track?
Yeah, it's a good track. I've won there in sports car. I finished the podium a bunch of times in NASCAR. But that's it. I love, it's another place I loved a lot.
Nice. Do you know the track owner of Most Sport, Ron Fellows?
Oh, yeah, I know Ron pretty good.
Yeah, have you ever raced against Ron Fellows before?
I don't recall I've done it. Maybe at the track at the same time, but not against him in the same class.
Alrighty. So, is Most Sport Raceway similar to Watkins Glen?
Different ways. I mean, Most Sport's a bit quicker. It's a bit different, but it's the same kind of challenging track that pushes your limits.
Alrighty. I love those kinds of tracks. Montreal was one of my favorite NASCAR races, and that's one of the races I wish they didn't take off the calendar because it was so unpredictable. Know what I mean?
Yeah. Hopefully it comes back.
I hope so. What type of motorsports division are you racing in today?
A 50 series, and I own the team. I'm a team manager also. So I do managing, and I race, but not full time anymore. So I still love what I do.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Have you made any other NASCAR starts other than your 2009 race in Montreal, or no?
No.
Alrighty, I didn't think so. What is racing at Montreal like compared to Watkins Glen?
Montreal is more straightforward.
Alrighty. What is racing at the 24 Hours of Daytona like?
It's one of the biggest events I've been to. So, I love Daytona. I mean, Daytona to me, it's just you drive it in, the place. It's just like a different place. It's big, it's awesome. I love NASCAR. So driving the 24 there, it's a road course, but still I get association to everything that happened with them.
Alrighty. Who's your favorite competitor that you have raced with out of all the ones you have?
It's hard to say. I mean, obviously I got a brother that does the same thing as me. There's something there special. But, my brother, I guess, the family thing is different. Richard Penard, I should say, because he was my mentor, and I've raced with him in 2006, I guess, also. I've done a bunch of races with Richard, and he was my mentor, so it's something special with me. So Richard Penard, yes.
Alrighty. What is your favorite racing film between Talladega Nights and Days of Thunder?
Days of Thunder.
Yeah, everybody that I've interviewed is saying that. Who is your racing idol or hero?
I have a bunch of them, but I'm going to say Gilles Villeneuve because he's next to where I live, so he lives 30 minutes from my place.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not too surprised. The Villeneuve family is very accomplished.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to the Indianapolis 500 before?
That's the 500 I've been there. I was supposed to race with a car problem, and I've coached there at Indy a few times on the road course. But I've never been to the 500.
So you've never been to the 500 before then?
No.
Alrighty. I haven't either, but I plan to eventually. Have you ever raced with Indy 500 winner Jacques Villeneuve before?
Yes, we've done the 50 series. He came and raced with us a bunch of times.
Nice. What is he like?
Oh, and with me, it was all good. You know, it was fun. We had a good talk, and it was had a good time.
Alrighty. When did you begin your racing career?
As a mechanic at Jim Russell in 1993.
Ah, yep. That was the year that Emerson Fittipaldi won the 500, and that was pretty cool. And when Nigel Mansell won the kart championship, which was pretty big for IndyCar.
Well, I love Nigel. Awesome.
Have you ever met Nigel Mansell?
No, I didn't.
Ah, alrighty. What is racing nationwide cars like compared to NASCAR sports cars?
It's more aggressive. All the starts and restarts. There's a lot of things involved in NASCAR stuff. All the endurance stuff is more like a really planning strategy. You need to push really hard, but obviously there's never any contact or almost none because the cars are not made for it. So, and there's less yellow flags, so. But it's a different strategy, but they're different cars to drive, more aggressive, and in a stunt car, it's a bigger car, a lot of weight, not as much brake, so it's different.
Alrighty. Have you ever met any legendary race car drivers like Dan Gurney or AJ Foyt or Mario Andretti?
No, but when I won when I won 24 and I guess 07, Richard Petty was the guy that gave the trophy on the podium, so that was pretty cool. So I met Richard Petty. I met who else did I meet? I don't recall. Like I met some others, like Johansson. I had a chance to meet Greg Moore before, obviously what happened to him. Richard Stetter is pretty good. He's got Goodyear, I met a bunch of times. Richard Petty was one of the, on the podium, which is pretty awesome. And there's other guys that just like mistake right now that just come back to me that I've met through my career, through some events. And, like Zach Brown, like Max McLaren right now, I've met him when he was racing, himself. So there's some guys that I've met that are doing pretty good in their careers at a bunch of places, and that's it.
Alrighty. That's pretty cool. What was Greg Moore like?
I mean, I didn't meet him a bunch of times, but we did a few events together, and it was always a lot of fun. He was a great driver. He enjoyed everybody. Was nice to everybody. So, there's a lot of good things to say about this guy.
Yeah, it's a shame what happened to him 20 years ago. That was very shocking. That was tough.
Yeah, for sure.
What was your reaction to the 1992 Indy 500 finish when Unser clipped Scott Goodyear at the stripe?
I mean, thanks Scott had a great race. I mean, Scott's even himself, like, he finished second twice, I think, for different reasons. So, it's racing. It's just, what happens.
Yeah. And what was your reaction to the first Canadian driver winning the 500 in 1995 with Villeneuve?
I was pretty happy for him. And, 500 is a big thing, but other things, I was pretty happy. For Villeneuve, the 2 championships, the Indy, the F1, and all that, he was great. And I respect the guy a lot. There's a lot of other good racers that race a bunch of places, and it's a lot of fun.
Nice. Let me see. There's more. What is being a team owner like?
I mean, that's I love racing. I love being part of it. I've helped a lot of guys and teams that do things differently, different places. So obviously I love and I'm proud of what we do.
Nice.
Because having your own team is something special, and it's a lot of work, it's a lot of investment, but it's pretty good.
That's pretty cool. I'm glad to hear that. And what is racing in IMSA like?
Well, I love it. Sports car IMSA, thing with Grand Am, it's the same people behind it. There's a lot of great people that have been part of the history of racing, the GTP days, the GPU days. So there's a lot of, it's a big family. There's people that are very respectful. There's a lot of good things about it.
Yeah. Did you hear that Roger Penske and the Penske Corporation?
I did.
You knew what I was going to say even before I said it. That's good.
Yeah, you where you were going.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You knew exactly what I was going to say before I even said it. You're very smart, I will say that. What is racing in Edmonton like?
It's a small little track, but it's pretty fun.
Yeah. What was it like winning at Daytona in 2007 in the Rolex Grand Am Series?
That was awesome. The feeling of being able to win that big race. Two times we won, I was really involved in it. I worked a lot, I drove a lot, so I'm proud of what we did done both times. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What is racing at Laguna Seca like?
It's pretty fun.
Yeah. What was your reaction to the amazing finish at Laguna Seca between Zanardi and Brian Herta?
My finish? Between their finish?
Yeah, their finish, yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, a lot of people have said
I'm looking more question you got because I got two things I need to go shortly. I thought we were a bit shorter. But how much more time do we have?
Well, if you'd like, I only have a few questions left, but if you'd like, I can just limit it to 5. Does that work?
That would be perfect for me. You think we should do.
Alrighty. So the next one I'll ask is, are you religious at all? If so, how has it impacted your career?
Well, I believe in God. I don't practice, so when we have I will pray, but it did not affect anything in my career. I just think that I believe in it, but I don't practice, so I guess we go so far.
Alrighty. Who do you think is the better NASCAR road course ringer between Ron Fellows, you, and Dan Gurney?
Oh my God. Between me and Ron, but I won't, obviously I won't comment on this. We need to pass.
Alrighty. That's a good answer for it, yeah. What was it? No, wait, just a sec. What was it like racing with rain tires in the Nationwide car in 2009?
That was good. They're not good tires, but it was something good, so it worked out okay.
Huh, cool. Who is your favorite motorsports team owner that you have worked with?
Charles de Casera.
Alrighty.
I like Real Motorsport.
Alrighty, cool. And who is the biggest racing legend that you have met? Would you have to say it was Richard Petty, probably?
I guess.
Alrighty. Do you have any children at all?
Yes, 2. One 2.5 and one 5 years old.
Nice, pretty cool. And this is the last one I'll ask since your time is kind of short. What is racing in Homestead, Miami like?
It's fun. I raced before they changed the track with the banking. I always did the roll there, but I always love Miami. It's a big different, challenging, but we always had good fun. It's not an amazing track. It was always fun to race there.
Alrighty, cool. Alrighty, so this chat that we just did, just so you know, it's gonna go in a ebook that I'm writing about the history of motor racing, and I'll let you know when the ebook is published.
Perfect. My email is jeff@competition, or you can send it at info@competition, or you can text me also.
All right, just a sec. Can I write that down very quick? How do you spell it?
It's info
at
competition.
All right, info@demolincompetition.com or all right, .com or is it .net?
.com.
All righty. Thank you very much for your time, buddy. It was good chatting with you.
Thank you, buddy.
All righty. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. All righty. That worked out well. Hope that all my followers enjoyed it, because I sure did. Interviews are what I want to do. Interviews are what I want to do. I'm very grateful that I get to do this. That was a good conversation. I do think the only mistake that I probably made was going a little bit too fast, probably in the beginning, but that's just because I was excited and probably interrupting him a couple times. Those are the only mistakes I made, but this was definitely good, and it worked out very well, and I finally got a comment and a like from someone. Pretty cool. Thanks, Lachlan O'Grady, for commenting. It was a good interview. I'll keep doing these in the future because they are what I want to do. Thank you all for joining me. Have a good one. Alrighty, so let's begin this, shall we?
Yep.
Alrighty, so Patrick, I'm very grateful that you made the time for me, and so my first question out of 25 is, where are you originally from?
Montreal.
Alrighty, that's kind of where I thought it was because I remember reading about it. And what made you get into motor racing?
I won a race on a short track speed skating. One race is a championship, and my dad brought me to a go-kart track as a gift.
Ooh.
And, and I started karting. After that, I switched to racing.
Nice. So it was one thing that led to...
I was 11 years old at that time.
Oh, wow. And that's pretty cool. What got me into what got me into motor racing was when I saw the Talladega race in 2009 on television, and Brad Keselowski won the race as a rookie, I believe.
Yeah, Talladega is always exciting.
Yeah, and what I like about Talladega and Daytona is that it's unpredictable who's going to win the race.
It is.
Yeah. So who was your biggest idol in motor racing?
At the time, it was Ayrton Senna was quite a big idol of mine.
Ooh.
And Richard Bishop.
Yeah, he was great. And I know a lot of people in my family that don't follow motor racing, but they do know a lot about Ayrton Senna.
Yeah, and of course in Montreal we had Gilles Villeneuve.
Oh yeah, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. That's the one track that I really wish. That's the track that I wish that NASCAR didn't take off the calendar, because that was a good race.
Yeah, it was always a good race, always unpredictable.
Yeah, for sure. What is driving on a road course track like compared to an oval track?
It's funny because I've always
prefer the ovals, probably because of the speed skating.
Ooh.
It was kind of something that I always truly enjoyed, and it's very different though. A lot of braking, hard acceleration on a road course, and when you talk about ovals, it's mostly I would say rhythm. They're two very different type of racing.
Nice. Yeah. I've always liked road racing, and I do a little bit of karting myself, and I'm always good at road racing compared to ovals.
Yeah, it's funny because people think oval is easy. I think it's very hard. I think it's hard as a golf course.
Yeah, for sure. And if I had to pick, and this is just a comment about one of the previous questions I asked. If I had to pick an idol of mine in motor racing, I would have to say Kyle Larson. And last year I met him at the Cup race.
Ah, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, have you met him?
He's a nice guy. Yeah, I did. When I did the Indianapolis and Sonoma race.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool. I encountered Larson. I kind of encountered him and had a funny moment with him. I encountered him when he was in line for a porta-john, and I asked for a photo.
That's funny.
Yeah.
If you get in line at a porta-john, you'll meet all of them. So that's where they go before a race.
Yeah, for sure. I'm thinking that when I go to the NASCAR Xfinity race this weekend, I'm thinking that I might stand by that area.
Yeah, honestly, we all have to go before the race. So.
Yeah, definitely. What was racing in kart IndyCar like?
It was, sorry, because I'm driving at the same time, but it was a lot of fun. Those cars were insanely fast.
Yeah.
Some of the scariest and fastest and most craziest moment in my career. It was pretty intense because we lose a guy every year, or there'd be something, and bad crash, and it was fun. I mean, back then, I remember racing in Fontana, and the grandstands were completely packed, and I haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Only in IndyCar and NASCAR.
Ah, that's really cool. And what made you switch from kart racing to NASCAR stock car competition?
Well, I did a race in Montreal, and it went really well because Paul Wolf was the crew chief for Bratislava Love. He was my crew chief, and then we qualified on pole, finished second, and that's when Ray Evernham called me and asked me to drive one of their cars for Watkins Glen.
Ooh.
And I drove at Watkins Glen. It went pretty well, and then they called me to do a test on an oval, and the test went pretty well.
Nice.
So it was pretty cool. So they hired me.
Yeah. What did Kevin Harvick tell you after the Montreal race when you congratulated him?
He thanked me for not kicking him off the racetrack at the airport.
So he was thanking you for not wrecking him, pretty much?
Yeah, exactly. Because back then I was only doing one race, so I could have wrecked him easily and win the race. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you weren't running for points.
Yeah. Yeah, but I never raced like that, so I was like, yeah.
That's good on you, man. We need more stock car drivers like you in the world. I'll say that. So, yeah. What was your reaction to leading?
Yeah, but funny enough, he he gave it back to me later on.
Oh.
Yeah. When I got the pole at the loudest,
Ooh.
I believe it was either outside or right behind me. And I think it was outside pole. And before the race, he came and he said, if you get a good start, I'll tuck in behind you and I'll let you lead a few laps. And after that, I'll let you go by. And that's exactly what he did. He actually let me lead 2-3 laps, and then he just went by and never saw him again.
Oh, wow. That's good on Harvick to return the respect. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, and I was kind of happy. So that's kind of when I realized I didn't do it for nothing. It kind of paid off there.
Yeah. What was your reaction to leading 7 laps at the Glen in 2007?
Oh, that was crazy. I still have a picture of the pit box timing monitor and me up front, and I just went to a wedding, and somebody gave me as a wedding gift actually that car in a frame that they painted, and it was it was special. It was that car for me was special. It was different. It was so huge compared to anything else, and I was always impressed with these guys and all that, and get run a few up front there was for sure was pit stops and all of that, but still I was really happy.
Nice. That's good on you, man. And you did pretty good in stock cars, I would say, for a guy that was new in the sport, for sure.
Yeah, I wish I would have done it for a longer time. The funny thing is, Ray Evernham, when they signed me up, they actually signed me up for 3 years. And then we had a couple of years as an option. And Ray Evernham said, well, if they don't sign you up for 3 years, there's no point picking you up because you're not going to do much good the first year. Second year will be a little bit better. And the third year we'll find out if you can do this or not. And I wish I would have done the 3 years, but hey, that was it. It was a sponsorship question at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's what. Yes, in my opinion, NASCAR has kind of become the sport where they're picking up, drivers that have a lot of money rather than taking a risk on some drivers like you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I guess they need the money now to run these cars, whether it's NASCAR, F1, or any cars. It's getting more and more expensive. So
yeah. Did you hear that Roger Penske purchased the IndyCar sport?
I did. I was amazed with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, he's Roger Penske. He's really shooting for the stars in his career.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, and if there's any team that definitely deserves to own the Speedway, it would definitely be Penske because they're the winningest team there.
Yeah, and I think he's a very straightforward and honest guy. So I think he's one of the only ones that could own the series, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the team, everything, and still, I don't think he will be really confident.
Yeah, for sure. Alrighty. What was finishing second like in Montreal to Ron Fellows?
It was fun. It was crazy. I think it was raining a lot that time.
Yeah.
And Ron was yelling for people to stop the race because it was raining too much. And because we were catching it, so I was yelling at people not to stop the race because I thought it was only a light breeze. It's crazy how much it was raining, but Ron ended up winning it. So that was good. He's a great guy, so I was happy for him.
Yeah. And what was the reception from the fans like when Ron was able to win for the Canadians?
They were going crazy because there were a lot of people in the stands from where he's from and Toronto and everywhere, and so it was really good. It was really good.
Cool. What was driving?
Yeah, everybody likes Ron.
Yeah, and yeah, I really like the guy as a road course ringer because he should have won a couple cup races, if not many of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what was driving for Michael Waltrip racing like?
It was fun actually. Michael was a great guy. Was always nice, and a few opportunities that I wouldn't have had if he wouldn't have been involved there. So I was thankful to him and Napa Photo Parts also. But it was fun. It was fun. You know, I wanted to do more races, but he gave me one more than what I should have done. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's good on him to do that. Yeah. What was your reaction? What was your reaction to finishing 11th at Sonoma in the 55 car?
It was good. Yeah, I was happy. He was really happy, and that's actually when he gave me an extra race. I think I did walk-in plan after that with him, and it was because of what we did at Sonoma. I was pretty happy.
Oh, cool. So results can pay off over time. That's good for you. And what was driving for...
Yeah, it's good.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's good. It was really good.
Yeah. What was driving for Go Fast Racing like in 2016?
It was good. It was okay. You know, they didn't have a lot of money, and they were. I hadn't driven in a while, and when we got to Sonoma, I didn't have any testing, and we didn't do the practices because they didn't want to use up tires, and so it was. They were super cool guys, but except it was kind of a tough situation for me because I needed more track time. So that's the only thing that was a bit of a bugger there. But yeah, that was it. Those were my last two races there in Indianapolis.
Alrighty. What was driving in Mexico City like in 2008?
Oh, that was fun. I always liked it. I always liked. Made a lot of friends in Mexico, and people there at the heart. They're nice people, and always enjoyed it. Actually, I just a family in Mexico has always been great fans of what I did in racing, and always followed me. And we still talk today, and I sent them my last racing helmet I had for. That I could give up, so they were pretty happy. So Mexico's always been an amazing place for me, and I always got along well with the Mexican drivers also.
That's good to hear. And so you knew Jorge Getters and the other guys then?
Jorge, no, I was more with Michel Jourdain, Adrian Fernandez when I was in IndyCar.
Yeah.
I went to Mexico a lot more when I was in IndyCar.
Alrighty. And I believe IndyCar raced there for a period of time, so yeah, that explains it.
Yeah, they were in Monterrey, Mexico, and Mexico City.
Alrighty. And what was leading a lap like? What was your reaction to that in that race in Mexico?
Oh, it was pretty cool. It was pretty good. Funny because Sal Bush was with me in the truck when we did the parade, and just kept asking me, what do you break here, what do you do, and how do you do it? And then maybe I shouldn't have told him too many tricks because he's always really fast. But that was good. That was a fun weekend.
Yeah. Let me see if I have any. Oh, yeah, I have one more, which is, what was your reaction to finishing 8th on an oval track in Las Vegas that year?
That was great. That was super cool. I think that was in the Xfinity series then.
Yeah, the Xfinity, yeah.
Yeah, that was fun because I think that's the weekend Casey Kane got sick. I wasn't supposed to be in that car. It was Casey that was supposed to be in it.
Oh.
And yeah, they said, well, you got to jump in the car and you're going to have to do the race. And I said, okay, no problem. So I jumped in the car and did the race, and actually the car was pretty good and had a wonderful race.
Yeah, and didn't you live in Vegas for a brief period of time?
13 years.
Oh, 13 years. So that was kind of your hometown track other than Montreal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Alrighty. That's pretty cool, man, and it's good chatting with you again.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it, and you take care.
Yeah, and thank you very much for joining me today. And again, I'm an associate of Vic Sifton, so you can probably reach me through him.
Perfect. And say hello to Vic if you see him shortly.
I definitely will. I'll tell him hi for you. And before this chat, he told me to say hi to you as well, so that's pretty cool.
Perfect. Great and wonderful guy.
Yeah, I really like him, and he says he's from Colorado to an extent like I am, you know. He lived there for a brief period of time.
Yeah. I know. So, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. I'll let you go. I'm a little bit lost on the road here, so I'll try to find my way.
Alrighty, no problem, and I'll keep you posted on when my project comes out.
Oh, super. I appreciate it.
No problem. Have a good one.
Yeah, bye.
Bye. Alrighty, that turned out very well. Patrick Carpentier seemed even happier to talk to me, so pretty cool. Have a good one, all my followers, and thanks for joining me, even though it was only a few, so thank you. Hey followers, today I am interviewing race driver Andy Pilgrim, a connection that I have in the motorsports community. He drove for Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s team in the 2007 road course races in Montreal, as well as Watkins Glen. This was before Brad Keselowski drove the 88 car in the Xfinity and Busch series, so yeah, and nationwide as well, because the names have changed over the years. But yeah, Andy and I are connected on social media, and he sent me this lovely picture a couple years back when I was going through my dark period in my life. This was in 2016, which was the best birthday present I got that year. So, for the interview, I'm wearing my Kyle Larson Credit One Bank jacket, which is my racing attire. It's kind of a rainy day, so I need to cool off a little bit anyway, so yep, I'm going to wear that for the interview. Hey y'all, today I'm interviewing Andy Pilgrim. Let's see if he answers the phone.
Hello.
Hey Andy, this is Doug Kenney.
Hello, Doug Kenney. Andy Pilgrim, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you? Are you ready to do this phone chat?
Yes, sir. Absolutely ready.
Alrighty, it means a lot to me to be chatting with you because you were one of my favorite road racers back in the early 2000s.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Appreciate your enthusiasm. It's always good to chat to anyone that likes racing, whether they compete or whether they're just fans or enthusiasts.
Yeah, and I got involved in the sport back in it was between 2005 to 9.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, and what got me inspired was the Disney film Cars.
I think I remember reading that. I think you put that somewhere once, and I think I probably picked up on it reading it because I'm a huge cartoon fan. You may or may not have seen some of my helmets, but I love putting cartoon stuff on my helmets. I've always done that. So yeah, I didn't see that movie in all its entirety, but I am well aware of it.
Yeah, and I kind of think out of all the sequels, I think the first one is the best.
I think always the early ones seem to be the best in these franchises. Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, so I have a list of questions, and there's like 46 of them, I believe, and they're all about your career.
Goodness gracious. All right, we will try to answer them.
Alrighty, cool. That sounds good. So, first one is, where are you originally from?
Nottingham, England.
Ah, nice.
Robin Hood country, yeah.
Robin Hood. I love that legend. So what is living in the United Kingdom like compared to the United States?
For the most part, where I've lived in the United States, I would say much warmer. I don't like cold weather and love England, love growing up in England, but honestly, one of the main reasons I came here was opportunity. The opportunities have been amazing, and also being able to live in a part of America which is much warmer was also a big plus.
That's cool. I think both countries are pretty cool, but yeah.
Very much so, very much so. I'm very happy that I grew up there. I have a great appreciation of history from growing up there, and of course, a great education there, so very, very lucky.
Yeah, that's really cool, and the United Kingdom has always been a place I've wanted to visit for years.
Yeah. And I did become a U.S. citizen in 1998, just as an aside to that. So I'm actually a dual citizen. You don't give up your British passport, but I became a U.S. citizen in 1998, just in case that's of interest to you.
Yeah, that is an interest to me because that was the year I was born.
Ah, very good. Excellent.
So what made you get into motor racing?
Ever since I was a little kid, I had an interest in cars. I don't know why. When I was young, I was fascinated by cars, different colored cars. After I first started being able to talk, I would call out the names of cars according to my parents. There was no motor racing background in my family whatsoever, and it was just a bit bewildering to them, the car racing. My dad had an interest in watching some motorcycle racing at a racetrack near where we lived. But that was it. We didn't have the financial means ever even thought about anything like racing, other than being someone that might watch it or listen to it on watch on the television or something like that.
Oh.
I just had a natural interest in it. Don't know where it came from.
Yeah, and I had an interest in cars as well because my grandfather worked for Napa.
Oh yeah, there you go. That's an interest. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and my grandfather, he went to the Indianapolis 500 when A.J. Foyt won his fourth.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've met A.J. a couple of times. Great gentleman.
Yeah, and who was your favorite race car driver growing up?
No, I don't think it's unfair at all. I think it's bloody clever. And full marks to Granatelli for doing it. I mean, it was a hell of a gamble, and it's paid off, and I think he deserves every credit. I'm only sorry that I didn't think of it first.
Growing up, I think it was Mike Hailwood was the guy because Mike Hailwood, I was more interested in motorcycles in a knowledge base. So motorcycles, Mike Hailwood, who became an F1 driver, he was a world champion motorcycle racer. So Mike Hailwood, and also Graham Hill and Jim Clark.
Ooh.
Those were the guys going back there. Those were the car race guys, purely car race guys that I liked.
Yeah, and those are legends. No other way to put it.
Absolutely. Especially Clark. I mean, they sort of think about Jim Clark, and they talk about Ayrton Senna and Jim Clark from their eras as being just naturally brilliant race car drivers. Yeah.
Yeah, and Clark finished at Indy second as a rookie, which is amazing.
Yes, he did. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you ever been to the Indianapolis 500?
I went when I first came to the United States. I went the first year I ever came here. There was a gentleman, my first contract, I was a computer programmer. That's how I came to the United States, as a computer programmer. And a gentleman I worked at Pontiac, because I was a contractor at Pontiac Motor, and he invited me. He said, oh, a group of us are going to the Indy 500. And that was 1981.
Oh, that was the year Unser won over Andretti.
Yeah, okay. I remember Unser won it, and I was completely clueless at that time what I was looking at, but it was really impressive.
Yeah.
It was probably the first car race I'd ever been to.
Yeah. Now that you brought that up, I think I should add a question to my list very quick. What was your reaction to the controversial finish when Unser was disqualified briefly?
The year was 1981. Bruce Springsteen rocked Market Square Arena. Indy fans had to wait until March 5th after the boss postponed his February concert. But a far more serious event rocked the city and the nation that same month. The assassination attempt on President Ronald Reagan on March 30th. There was talk of postponing that evening's NCAA championship basketball game between IU and North Carolina, but the game went on and the Hoosiers won their 4th title. With the game in the rearview mirror, attention turned to racing. No one knew just how controversial the 65th Indianapolis 500 would become. Bobby Unser was on the pole looking for his 3rd 500 win. With just over 50 laps to go, Unser completed a pit stop under caution, and while staying on the apron, passed numerous cars as he returned to the track, right behind the pace car.
What's he doing? Look at that, he's passed about half a dozen cars.
Oh, James,
Under the yellow, you can't do that.
that is a no-no.
Unser went on to take the checkered flag, but the celebration was short-lived. Second-place finisher Mario Andretti appealed what he called an illegal pass. The following morning, USAC agreed, penalized Unser a position, and declared Andretti the winner. He returned to the track for the winner's photos. But this wasn't over. Unser's team immediately appealed. Finally, in October, 138 days after the race, an arbitration committee reinstated Unser's title and penalized him $40,000 instead. Unser's 3rd and last 500 win. On the road to 100, Liz Adiola, RTV6.
I don't have enough data on that, I'm afraid, Doug.
No problem.
To have a reaction. Yeah, I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah, there was a whole controversy around it, and looking at it, it may be best to kind of, not get into the politics of it. Know what I mean?
There you go. I'm with you.
Yeah.
No politics always sounds good.
Yeah. So both drivers are pretty good. No other way to put it.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
legends for sure. Actually, both of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And what made you get into sports car racing?
Well, it was sort of started with buying a second-hand car. I did a little bit of motorcycle racing after I became a computer programmer in England. So I took an old motorcycle, second-hand, put some numbers on it, started racing it because I just wanted to try and race something. My parents were almost mortified by the thought of me doing it. But I did it, and after 2.5 years of doing that and winning quite a few races, I had a bit of sponsorship, but about 2.5 years into doing that, I got an offer to become a computer programmer by an American company in the U.S., and I came over to the U.S. Cars had always been the main point of I'd like to try to drive a race car. It was always economically unfeasible, but then I saved some money, and by 1984, I bought a second-hand, the IMSA Renault Cup Series race car. because it was street legal. I could drive it to the racetrack and race it, try not to crash it, obviously, so I could drive it home. And that's how I started. The car cost me $6,500. I actually borrowed some money from a bank manager, and got half the car, and that's how I started. And I drove it 1,400 miles to my first race, from Dallas to Riverside, California, to compete in my first pro race.
Ooh.
Actually slept in the car, because it had to do it that way. There was no other way to do it. I didn't have a truck or a trailer, and maybe 20% of the guys didn't have a truck or a trailer and drove their cars to the racetrack, and I was one of those guys. I just came from a long way away.
Nice. That's really cool.
That's how I started. Yeah, it was a pretty rough way to start, but when you're 28, 27 years old, you thought, you know what, you just want to do it, you do it. You don't think about whether it's difficult. You just do it. Try. I just wanted to try. Yeah.
I commend you for that. And do you remember when Gurney won all those Riverside races?
No, I don't. To be honest, Doug, I don't.
Yeah, that was back in the 60s. And when
Okay, no, I wasn't here then, mate, so I wouldn't have known that. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
I got here in '81. Yeah, yeah.
Alrighty, and what is racing the Rolex 24 at Daytona like?
The hands of Pascal Dro. Meanwhile, the number 3 Corvette is headed for the pit lane, and Dale Earnhardt, the 7-time NASCAR Winston Cup champion, will make his much-awaited debut in the race. Calvin Fish.
Well, Andy Pilgrim jumped out, but it took him some seconds to do that. Typically, the drivers loosen the belts as they go down pit lane. There you can see Dale in the car. Crew member helping him get the lap belt done up. That's the key. If they sit on the belt, then they have problems. Dale's sucking it in a little bit. They're trying to get that connected, and then they'll tighten down those shoulder belts. The team is going to work. All 4 tires have been changed, and it takes about 33 to 34 seconds if they're on schedule to get the fueling. The fueling has been completed, so again, as we mentioned, the driver change may cost them a few seconds. Not too bad. Dale fires it up. First time in it. Oh, stalls it momentarily. Even he's been nervous with all his experience, guys.
We're going to have a full course caution for absolute sure. Is Dale going to get out?
No sign of it yet. Keep in mind that wrecked car is on the backstretch. Dale Earnhardt makes his way down the pit lane. One of the American GT cars had suffered heavy front end damage, and now it comes out. We are under a full course caution as Earnhardt makes his way back onto the racetrack.
Dale Earnhardt Sr. kind of handpicked and selected Andy Pilgrim to be his mentor for Corvette racing driving. He took it very serious and was there for no other reason but to win. And he would regularly call Andy after Andy would be participating in a race or maybe going testing, and he wanted to know, what did you learn about the car at that particular race?
Got a great starter here with Andy and the guys and the teammates with Kelly and Dale Jr. So they've been schooling me for a couple months now, and I think we're ready to race. 24 hours is a lot different than what we're used to, but I think we're up for it.
Oh, it's historical. There's a lot of history there. I'm a person who at least tries to appreciate history with motor racing or wherever I am. I'm always aware of, the history there, and I enjoy racing there because it's different. It's an oval, essentially the inside of an oval. It's a different location for us, and so I enjoy running around the banking because we don't get to do that a whole lot. In fact, I raced there last weekend in the Classic 24-hour in a Ferrari again, and ended up winning last week. So it's very fresh in my mind. I love Daytona. It means a great deal. I like it.
Yeah, and I hope to go to the 500 eventually. That'd be really cool.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Sadly, I was only there once, and that was the year that Dale passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah, and speaking of which, that was my next question. What was it like working with Dale Earnhardt Sr. at the 2001 Rolex at Daytona?
Well, The thing was that we first met 5 months previously. It's an interesting, little bit of an interesting, I don't know whether you've read this story or not. It's sort of been around a little bit in some of the newspapers on his 10th year anniversary. There were stories out there, but essentially, Petit Le Mans is one of our sort of big four road races, international majors, if you like. In 2000, I was running in Le Mans, Petit Le Mans with the Corvette program, and ended up making a pass on one of the Vipers to win that race very late in the race, and it became a pass on like RPM Tonight. It was sort of the pass of the week, where there was a show called RPM Tonight back then, and apparently Dale Earnhardt had seen that pass, and this was October in 2000, right? So I ended up getting a letter sent to my house. So we won the race. It was the first big win by the Corvette race team back then. It was the first major win by Corvette racing. Of course, they've won 100 races since then, but that was the first one, the first major. I'm at home answering emails, despite the fact, you might not even believe there were emails back then, but there were. And a lot of race fans were sending emails. There was a knock at the door on like the Tuesday morning after the race weekend, and it was FedEx. I opened it. It had this logo, said Dale Earnhardt Incorporated on this envelope, and I thought to myself, oh, that's weird. It must be some kind of catalog. I thought it was maybe a catalog or something. So I opened it, and there was a letter inside, and it said, Dear Andy, that was some pass you made on that Viper last weekend in that Petit Le Mans. That pass is exactly why I want you to be my teammate next year in the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. You obviously know how to trade paint. You've got to show me how to skin some snakes. And it said, sincerely, Dale Earnhardt. And I was like, seriously, it was a letter from Dale about that pass. And it was sort of announcing, I had no idea, that he was going to drive a Corvette the following February. And that was the first I heard about it. So I called my team manager, Gary Claudio, and said, Gary, I just got a letter from Dale Earnhardt. He was like, hi, we wondered why he was calling here yesterday looking for your address. So we gave it to him. And he said, yeah, but you can't say anything to anybody. I mean, I was all excited. And he says, you can't tell anybody about it because we're actually going to see him in 3 weeks to make the announcement that him and Junior are going to race with you at Daytona next year. And it was like, but he said you can't say anything for 3 weeks. I mean, it was like the hardest 3 weeks of my life not saying anything, to be quite honest. But that's how it started. So in that 5 months, there are so many stories that I have in that 5 months, building up to the race and going through the race. We became good friends, and just chit chat friends. I mean, I figured he had a lot of chit chat friends, but apparently he didn't. According to his sort of right hand guy, Steve Crisp, he told me almost. Unfortunately, after he passed away, I learned a lot more about this. But we chatted a lot, had a lot of fun conversations, and traveled around a little bit to Pratt & Miller, to things like that, and raced together, obviously. And Junior was involved as well. And then I got my teammate Kelly Collins involved. So instead of being just the three of us, Kelly Collins was part of the team. But in all, I just then thoroughly enjoyed meeting Dale. He was so much more, I found out, so much more than just a race car driver. He's a very kind person. He was an entrepreneurial person, obviously. But he really enjoyed the idea of his the road racing, the car road racing, and I just thoroughly enjoyed meeting him and learning about his stuff. And the guy was an absolute legend. It was a privilege to spend some time with him and get to know him a little bit.
That's really cool, man. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, thank you. It's a fun. It was I'd say a privilege to be part of it. To be honest, Doug.
That's awesome to hear. And so, yeah, after that, my next one is, what was your reaction when Earnhardt crashed at the end of Daytona?
Got a couple of corporate teammates, Waltrip and Earnhardt Jr. Then the man who owns those cars, Dale Earnhardt.
This crowd is on their feet. They want to see the finish of the Daytona 500. They'll look at the white flag.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. right behind him. Then Dale Earnhardt nose to tail. The front two have a breakaway of about a car length. Three wide behind, halfway down the back straightaway.
Michael Waltrip showing the muscle. Everything stacks up from third on back. Dale Earnhardt gets turned sideways.
Michael Waltrip trying to hold off Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 463 tries. Finally,
Michael Waltrip is going to win
a NASCAR Winston Cup race, winning
the Daytona 500, the biggest of them all.
Ken Schrader climbed from his car after that turn 3 crash. Dale Earnhardt was removed from his car, and you see the ambulance transporting him directly to Halifax Medical Center.
Sitting directly in front of me, the Ken Schrader car and the Dale Earnhardt car.
Well, he had invited me and my girlfriend to come to the race, and my girlfriend of the time, and we were staying on the boat before the race, and he stayed in the motorhome with Teresa.
Oh.
So when I didn't see him, excuse me, before the race, so we ended up going to the track. I sort of spoke to him on the radio a little bit before the race and stuff, but he sort of said, go to the suite, take care of that, do this, go there, whatever. And I saw him a little bit before, but during the race, you'll remember there was that huge red flag stuff.
Yeah, I've seen it.
So we were in the suites, the Chevy suites. He'd arranged me to have a ticket there, and I was watching the race from there. Then we wandered back after the big the wreck. We said, because he said, make sure you're back at the bus before the end of the race, because we'll get out of here and we'll go back to the boat. And so we wandered back all the way back to the bus. It was yellow, and we got back to the bus and got in the bus. And, Teresa was there. She was the only one in the bus, and we were just sitting chatting with Teresa. And I heard Teresa had a radio on a desk in front of her where she was, and we were just sitting, across sort of in the bus there. And the radio goes, does Andy have his ears on? Now, I didn't imagine that Andy was me. And she said, oh, he's been asking for you. So I was like, oh, okay. She handed me the radio, and I just basically say, hey, Dale, it's Andy. She's like, hey, you doing all right? I said, yeah, you doing all right? She said, yeah, it's all good. I said, you having fun? Yeah, I'm having fun. Everything's good. And then we chatted a little bit. So he was still under yellow, of course, still under yellow flag. And then he said, he honestly said, so you got any advice for me? Can you imagine? 7-time Winston Cup guy. I mean, I just laughed. It was like, no, Dale, I don't have any advice for you, man. You're doing great. I mean, to me, he had like a 15th place car that day, and he'd been up in the top 3 most of the day. It was amazing. Wow. I mean, just to see him work in the traffic, work in the draft, it was pretty masterful. I mean, even I could see that, not being an oval track guy. It just seemed to be pretty amazing piece of driving. But I said, no, man, you're doing great. I don't have any advice. You're doing great. And so then we didn't chat much more. And then a voice came over and said, green next time. And obviously, that was it. Like, okay, see ya. And that was it. And the race went green. And unfortunately, we know what happened within the next 5 minutes. But at the very point that it happened, to be honest, Doug, we knew there was a crash, and I've been around enough racetracks, and when it goes quiet like that, it's never a good thing. And when he didn't get out of the car, I didn't suddenly think the worst. I didn't want to. That's just not my nature. But the longer it went, I had a horrible sinking feeling that this just wasn't going to be a good day. And then I heard from one of his crew that came by before the announcement that just was very emotional. I saw in his eyes. I didn't have to say anything, but he just said, Andy, he's gone. Andy, he's gone. And I was like, oh, it was just, well, you know what happened after that.
Yeah, and how long was it after the crash before you got the news?
Welcome to SportsCenter with Stuart Scott. I'm Dan Patrick. Coming up, we'll bring you the day and night in sports, but we begin with the obvious somber notes.
Yeah, at the Daytona International Speedway, where the man who's won more races there than any driver in history loses when it counts most. Dale Earnhardt bidding for a second Daytona 500 checkered flag. And what he hoped would start a season to win a record 8 points championship died in a last lap crash.
This is undoubtedly one of the toughest announcements that I've ever personally had to make. But after the accident in turn 4 at the end of the Daytona 500, we've lost Dale Earnhardt.
That's a great question, and I don't know, but I would say it had to be at least 2 hours.
Alrighty.
In my mind, but I can't remember exactly, to be honest, Doug.
Yeah, no problem.
It was a long time, and it was the longer it went, the more I was concerned,
Yeah.
And poor Teresa, she was in the bus when the crash happened, the end of the race happened. Obviously, Michael had won, and they'd had a 1-2, and she just likes Andy. I just don't know what to do. And I said, Teresa, you just got to go out there. And she wasn't sure which way to go. Like, Dale's just crashed, and I don't know. And then obviously people took care of her and took her where she needed to go. But she was like, she was just completely emotionally torn in 3 different directions. It was just such a strange, I'm sure, just completely twilight moment for her. At that split second, it was like she's so happy that the team had done well, and then of course Dale had a big wreck, and it was like, oh my goodness, what do I do? But and she disappeared, and we were sitting in the bus. My girlfriend and I were sitting in the bus for quite a while before we were just wandered around outside just to see what was going on, and then it, as I say, I saw one of the crew guys, and they said Andy is gone, and it was like, oh. And I wasn't surprised at that point because it had been so long, but the surprise isn't the point. The point is that, you just lost someone who was a very new friend, but it was just surreal. It was just surreal. It just was surreal.
Yeah, that's very tough to go through. No other way to put it.
Yeah, sadly, Dale Earnhardt's one person that you just never imagined that would happen to. But in this business, started with motorcycle racing, there's a lot of people that don't make it out of here. But it was just almost like Earnhardt was looked at as being Iron Man. It was just, it would almost be everyone else but Earnhardt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just so strange, I think. Psychologically, people just couldn't take it in, And he was so loved by so many people. And of course, in a racing world, many people probably didn't like him in a racing world, but nobody could deny the fact that he was just so, you had to respect him even if you didn't like him.
Yeah. And
the biggest roar that 500, when they were introducing drivers, the biggest roar was for Earnhardt without any shadow of a doubt.
Ooh. Yeah.
The biggest cheer. The biggest cheer was when Earnhardt's name was read out before the beginning of the race. It wasn't even a comparison with any other driver.
Yeah, I can imagine all that. And there's some drivers that I don't like either, but I still have respect for them.
Oh, you got to respect anyone that puts on a helmet. I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and that's a very good way to look at it.
Yeah.
So, how did you get your Busch Series ride with Dale Jr.'s team?
Front of his race car. Anytime you could stay out of the dirty air and get cooler air to your brakes, you'd be better off. Well, Dale Jr., your car's not as pretty as it was at the start of the race. Left rear corner, Andy Pilgrim in the 88 car, wrinkled up. One thing's lucky. Hopefully the fuel will be able to still get in it. That's an issue these guys are going to have. On his way to pit road, it'll take a second for him to get to his stall. Pilgrim told us earlier in the weekend how he got this ride.
I was out playing golf, and I got a phone call. You don't normally answer the phone when you're playing golf, right? But it was Junior, so I answered the phone, and he says, "Hey man, I want to talk to you about something. Have you got a minute?" I said, "Well, I'm just playing golf. Can I call you back?" He says, "Well, it's kind of important." And so I was like, "Yeah, sure. Okay, what is it?" And then he told me that, "Hey man, how would you feel about driving the Bush car, my Bush car, in a couple of races, the road courses?" So that's how it came up.
Andy Pilgrim, this is a first for him. He's never made a NASCAR Busch pit stop. A crinkled left fender, fuel being spilled, but that's routine. The lug nuts fly, the brake dust flies. Number 88, what a story as he leads, and we go to Marty.
Kevin Harvick just came down pit road, took 4 tires and fuel. Crew chief telling him he...
Funniest thing was I was on a golf course playing golf, and I got a phone call, and I answered the phone, and it was Dale Jr. And he was like, "Hey Andy, how you doing?" I said, "Hey Dale, I'm doing great. How you doing?" I said, "I'm just playing golf here." He said, like it was like so. I think he said, "So what are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm playing golf." And then it was like. And he said, "Have you got a minute?" And I said, I'm playing golf, but you know." He said, "Well, it's kind of important." And I said, "Oh, well, no, okay then, go ahead. What's going on?" And he said, "I just want to know if you wanted to have a ride in, I think it would be a Nationwide car at that point." He said, "I want to know if you want to drive a Nationwide car." And I was like, "Oh my God, are you kidding?" He said, "No, I just want to know." I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." Ooh. And he said, "All right." He said, "So call me back. So call me back when you start playing golf or whatever, but we'll talk." I said, "Oh yeah, no, I'm in. Like that was it." So that was it.
That's really cool. And how did it feel to represent the U.S. Navy in the Busch Series?
That's a great question, actually, because it meant an awful lot, and I met a lot of the Navy people. I mean, of course, it was just the 2 races. You know, we almost pulled something off seriously in Canada, which was great in the first one. But it means an awful lot. I have a tremendous amount of respect. My father was in the Air Force in the Second World War, and you know, so I just, you know, I have respect for people that put themselves in harm's way, and that's just a lot. And so it meant an awful lot to meet some of those people, and it just meant an awful lot, especially for somebody who was not originally born here. It was very, very meaningful to me.
That's good to hear. And what was qualifying for the Montreal race like?
Well, I'd never been to that track, so the fact that, you know, I don't know where I qualified, to be quite honest. You probably know better than me. But it was, you know, it was so different. I mean, the brakes, the tires, the engines, the power of the engine. I mean, there was I did half a day test of VIR in the car, so I had a little bit of time in the car, which was great. And I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, it was the pressure wasn't really there in the sense that I knew I could at least qualify. And I can't remember where I qualified, but I did, you know, I just wanted to get some time in the car, don't make any mistakes, and keep learning, keep going, keep learning the car, because a lot of good drivers in that series, of course.
That's really cool. And what was
a lot of road course guys, a ton of road course guys up there, ton.
Yeah,
there was Boris Said, Max Pappas. I mean, loads of the Ron Fellows. I mean, tons of people. You know, along with the NASCAR regulars. So it was a great privilege. It was great. Andy Lally was there as well, I think. Yep. Yeah, it was great.
And Nick Janssen, if I remember right, as well.
Yeah, Nick was probably there as well. Yeah. Lots. I mean, lots. It was a whole. You know, it was a who's who of racing, NASCAR and road racing, to be honest, yeah.
Yeah, and I've done research on that race for a number of years, and I learned that Harvick's win at the end of the race was kind of an upset. And the reason that was because everybody expected the road ringers to dominate with all the braking and all that.
Yeah, there was all kinds of controversy in the last part of the race with the last yellow, and I got turned around. I got turned around. Robbie Gordon was into it with somebody, and
Here's how Robbie Gordon made the pass on Ambrose to get in front of him, and then the continuation. So Gordon by there, and then Ambrose back off that same corner.
Ambrose got a great bite up off that corner and just kind of jacked Robbie up and was going a little quicker than Robbie was.
There it is. Couldn't see that coming, could you?
Vince, I'm here with Robbie Gordon. Got out of his race car, hopped on the roof, saluted the fans. Very rough racing there at the end. Robbie, what happened?
Well, if you want to know my opinion, I won the race. So I completed all the laps. And if you've seen this happen before, guys get spun when they slow down. That's exactly what happened with Marcus. He spun me when I slowed down, and they tell me I'm going to go back to 17th. It's not the way it is. It's happened many times. They set precedents before, and we'll appeal it. We won this race.
You chose not to go do the black flag and stay out on the racetrack.
I went back to the position after I was spun, like it's happened many times before, okay?
Thank you, Robbie. Guys?
Let's hear from him.
We do have Marcus Ambrose. We only have a minute here, Marcos. Your emotions, your thoughts, what happened? You knew that there was going to be an attack from Robbie Gordon in the 50s.
Yeah, I'm devastated. You know, I promised myself when I came to NASCAR that I've been given such a chance that even if I have the worst day, I'm not going to be mad. And I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed, you know. I feel bad for Kingsford Ford, my team, you know. It's just this close, you know.
An amazing attitude for a guy who's had the heartbreak of the day.
I mean, it was just, you know, it was a typical Montreal mess on the restart. And unfortunately, I think I was leading on that last lap for about 200 yards before my tire had been flattened, and of course it went down. But I think I finished 15th, limping over the line with a flat tire. But I was in the top 3 there for the last restart. So, yeah.
Yeah, and what was your reaction when all hell broke loose when Harvick accidentally wrecked Pruitt?
Right, 50 yards, Marcus. Green.
Harvick inside of Pruitt for 4th place. Pruitt shuts the door on him. Harvick hits him back, and he gets Fellows. Big pile up down in turn 2. Brad Coleman involved, Ron Hornaday involved, and up front, Robbie Gordon by Ambrose, who goes back on him. Caution flags waving.
Well, we'll wonder what the loops are with this thing. Boy, we didn't see the pass, but it looks like the back of Ambrose's car, the right rear corner, is all tore up. So obviously, he might have repaid the favor.
Here's it's Robbie Gordon, first of all, coming back up the racetrack, so we might want to keep an eye on that, see if he's going to come knocking. Yeah. He is going to come knocking, I believe.
Well, if he started it, you know, you have to be able, you can give it, you got to be able to take it.
NASCAR usually doesn't take too kindly to contact between the cars on caution, especially when it's a payback issue.
You mean at the very end?
Yeah, it was like the last caution, I believe, of the race. And
well,
you found
the end of the caution. Yeah, I think it's hard to know because it's behind you. But from what I was told, Harvick got into the back of me, put me sideways, and I got into Marcus Ambrose, I think. Something like that. It was something like that. So, but I don't know who hit what, where, and when. It was just a resultant for me was I think I got hit by Marcus Ambrose's car as he was getting hit by somebody else. It was one of those typical things going all over the place. And coming out of the middle of it was, I believe, Harvick ended up coming out best out of all that.
Yeah, because I believe Harvick went on to win the race.
Yes, I think so too. Yeah, yes, I'm pretty sure he did. Yes.
Yeah, and Were you able to make it back to pit road to change the tire by the time the race ended?
The big hairpin turn coming up might be Carpentier's best opportunity to pass Harvick if he can get close enough. He's not right now.
Yeah, 2 more braking zones to reach him.
Now they'll make that run down to that big hairpin turn. They'll come to the end of this long, high-speed straightaway, jam on the brakes, have a quick right, a quick left, and onto the final straightaway where the checkered flag will be waving. Kevin Harvick started at the back of this field. Is he going to be able to hang on and get the win? Carpentier trying to find a way around, but Kevin Harvick is going to go from worst to first, and Kevin Harvick's name will go on the winner's trophy in the inaugural NASCAR Busch Series race at Montreal.
That's just awesome for that racing, boy. They, like I said, look out!
No, I basically limped over the line with a completely flat rear tire. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet that was hard.
Yeah, 15th I think I was. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And what did Junior tell you after the disappointing end to your run?
He was absolutely ecstatic, and actually so was I, because the fact that I was up in the top 3 was really good. I was so happy with that. And then Junior, and I was apologizing to Junior because I got hit, and he was like, "No, man, are you kidding? That was amazing. I was on the edge of my chair. It was incredible." Because, you know, we were right there in the top 3, and they were trying to sort out the mess after the yellow, and after the crash that caused the yellow, and it ended up, I think I started 3rd or whatever in the restart, something like that. But it was just crazy. It was just crazy. But Junior was happy. He was super happy. Yeah, it was because it was, you know, it was a fun race, and he saw his car running up front. I think that was a good thing, and it was my first time, so in a car like that, and so it was. I was happy, to be honest with you, Doug.
I'm glad to hear that, and it's kind of like how Boris said almost won Daytona a couple years ago in his own car.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, right.
So that shows that anyone can win a NASCAR race if things go right.
I think any race, you have to have some luck, to be honest, Doug.
Yeah, for sure. The definition of luck in motor racing is luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah, I've heard that. I have heard that, and I would never argue with that.
Yeah. So, what was racing at Watkins Glen like the following week?
Now, does he have enough fuel to make it back to the start-finish line?
Well, it's almost downhill from here. They do come down this turn and down this next straightaway downhill.
Now this is uphill there, Andy.
Not here.
He's
Now
going uphill.
now we're going
Richard Childress Racing has 8 wins in 2007, 4 from Harvick, 2 from Burton, and 2 from Boyer. It would be the 9th win for Richard Childress Racing in the NASCAR Busch Series in 2007. And if Harvick can hold on for another quarter of a mile, he would tie Jack Ingram for second on the all-time win list in the NASCAR Busch Series. And Kevin Harvick makes the fuel mileage and gas gamble pay off. He's a winner at Watkins Glen. Kevin Harvick's 4th win in his last 5 starts, 5 wins in 2007, but you talk about milestones, well, Kevin Harvick ties one of the all-time.
That was great. I enjoyed it. You know, again, it's just getting used to the cars, getting an idea on the speed of the cars, the setup of the cars. You know, there's not a lot of time to do setup. You've got to be sort of ready to go. And so when you're not quite used to the car, it's an interesting proposition. But luckily, at Watkins Glen, I'm fairly familiar with the track. It was just a question of getting an idea how late you could brake, how well the brakes would work, and also how well the handling was. So it was just a question of coming together with that. But I enjoyed it because I like Watkins Glen. It's a fast racetrack, and I like fast racetracks. But the lack of familiarity with the car, the gearbox, the brakes, and everything else, when you're at the top level, these guys are so good. They're so used to the equipment. it's just a question of how fast could I get up to speed. And I did okay in Canada, and I think I ended up top 15 again in Montreal. Had a good race with at the end there. One of the NASCAR regulars had a really good run to the end. Really good run. He was right behind me, and we were catching the people in front, but I couldn't. I can't remember who it was now, but I really thoroughly enjoyed running with those guys because very fair. I mean, very good side-by-side racing, hard racing, but I like that. That was good. It was really fun.
Yeah, and you know who else almost pulled off Montreal?
I think it was Denny Hamlin. That's what it was. I think it was Denny Hamlin. Yeah, Denny Hamlin.
Oh, I like Denny. I've always seen a good talent in him.
But yeah, no, I once they told me who it was, I mean, yeah, I also felt the same way. So I was pedaling as hard as I could just to stay ahead of him at that point.
Yeah, for sure. Do you consider Watkins Glen to be your best track between that and Montreal?
As far as NASCAR, I mean, obviously, as far as general racing terms, I've won races at Watkins Glen. I've only ever raced in Canada, Montreal, one time. So that, but there's plenty of other road courses like Elkhart Lake, Laguna Seca, Road America, the tracks that I'm much more familiar with, for sure.
Nice. And what was racing the 24 Hours of Le Mans like?
We have started the 86th edition of the 24 Hours.
Phenomenal. First did it in 96 in a Porsche, then 97 again in a Porsche, and then went back there again in 2000 with the first time Corvette went there, and ended up going there with the Corvette guys 4 times. Yeah.
Ooh, cool.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Just such an incredible place, and a lot of the really good drivers that you can compete with, maybe at Daytona or Sears Point, when they get to Le Mans and you've never been there before, you have a really, really steep learning curve and very few laps to get up to speed. So it's one of those places where you've got to learn up fast. The speeds are so high for so long. It gives you a strange, it sort of sets up a strange reality there that you don't find anywhere else. Because at Daytona, sure, you're doing a lot of speed for a long time, but it's a wide racetrack and friendly place to go fast. But at Le Mans, it's a 2-lane road with, 3 feet of grass and Armco barriers at the side, and it's a whole different deal. The impression of speed at 200 miles an hour at Le Mans, it feels like probably Daytona at 300 miles an hour because Daytona is so wide. And at Le Mans, you just got to be really threading the needle down the road. And when you've got a car passing you at certain places, you've got to be really careful because you can get a wind blast from a prototype in a GT car. And if you're sort of driving close to the white line at the edge of the track, it can actually blow you off the track. Ooh. You have to be very careful. So Le Mans is a place that has its own different psychology. At Le Mans is a big deal. Patience is a big deal in the Rolex 24, and physical preparedness is one like for Sebring. All these endurance races have different requirements, in my mind anyway.
That's pretty cool. And is it held in France?
Yes, correct. It's about an hour and a half fast train ride from Paris to Le Mans. You go east from Paris, yes.
Alrighty. What was it like making your Cup Series debut in the 46 car in 2011?
Absolutely amazing opportunity. Never expected it. Always been on my bucket list that I could possibly have a chance to drive in a full, proper Cup race, if you like. And I got a phone call, and the team were asking, if I might be interested in trying to qualify the car in, because we had more, as was normal back then at Sears Point, you had more people trying to qualify than could get in the race. I don't know if it's still that way, but anyway, back then you had a lot of cars. It wasn't just a question of show up and qualify. You had to qualify in. And I knew there was going to be tremendous pressure on me. They thought they were going to have a chance to do a half-day test to let me sit in the car. I went up to Michigan, where they were based, the Whitney Motorsports guys. But I sat in the car, but they said they weren't going to get the engine early enough to do any testing. So we weren't able to go test. So I sat in the car for the first time. We had an hour-and-a-half practice session, and then it was straight into qualifying. But unfortunately, during the hour-and-a-half practice session, the car's axle broke. So I only got like 5 or 6 laps in the car. I'd never sat in it before, so I don't know, 800 and something horsepower. It just was, I'd never driven a car a car like that on that track. It was Sears Point. I knew the track well enough. The NASCAR parts pretty similar, so I had a reasonable familiarity with the track, except the NASCAR layout. I hadn't run that part of it. I knew I was going to be under the gun. And I spoke to Jan Magnussen after this practice and said, I'm going straight into qualifying. And I think I spoke to Ron Fellows as well, just to try and get an idea, because both of them had qualified. They weren't at the track. They were on the phone. And I was basically, Jan was great. Ron was great too, but Jan was funny great. Jan made me laugh. He's just like, he said, Andy, those things are crazy. He said they have no brakes. They have too much horsepower. The tires can't take the horsepower. He said, whatever you do, he said, when you go out of the pits, warm up the tire, spin the tire, do whatever you have to do, because you come out of turn 8, you go down to turn 11, and you just run. That's all you got. You got nothing else. And so it's like you don't have time to do a lap to warm up to start the lap. You just have a quarter mile almost to just start the lap. This was something I'd never done before. So essentially, I just tried my best, and he said, whatever you do, don't let the car understeer going up into turn 1, because if you warm the tires up in the rear, the fronts are going to be stone cold. So I came out of the hairpin. I got pretty good grip, so I went flying around towards turn 1, and I'm going like, I just kept the power on just a tiny bit too long, and sure enough, I tried to turn into 1, and the car barely turned. And so I was like, just what he told me not to do. I pushed. Now, apparently, I was 7/10 off the bubble. I forget, I think Tony Ave was on the bubble, so I was the last one to qualify, I think, because I'd done no practice times. And Ave was in the race, and I had to knock him out, essentially, to get in the race, and he was the one on the bubble. And I was, I think, 6/10 behind his time as I went up towards turn 4. Ooh. And I didn't know that in the car, but I knew I'd lost time in 1. So I just said to myself, keep it clean, keep it clean. And I knew I was fast from turn 7, what I call turn 7, all the way back down to turn 11. I'm always good. Any fast corners in my career, I've always been quick. And I'm very comfortable sliding cars at high speeds. It's just what I'm comfortable with. And the car actually handled very well through there. And I made it as quick as I could. I just said, don't screw up the braking into 11. Don't try and grab too much. I got it right on the edge of locking up the rear tire, turned it in, got out of the corner fairly well, and then went across the line. And I went into Parc Fermé afterwards, came off the track and went up there. And then I just got a radio message from the guys basically saying, yeah, you made the show, son. You made the show, son. I was like, okay, great. So I guess I knocked poor old Tony out of the race, and we made it in there. So I got in by the skin of my teeth. But the team were very happy. That was my job to get in the race, and we got in the race. It was very, very close.
What did Tony say afterwards?
Tony, I never spoke to Tony because I don't know Tony very well, to be honest. I don't know Tony. I mean, I'm sure. I can't imagine he wasn't disappointed, that's for sure. Because it's a big deal. I'm sure his car was all painted up nice. I'm sure he had a big sponsor and all the rest of it. I mean, he's a very good driver. He's done, 25 years of Trans Am stuff and everything else. But I didn't actually speak to him. Yeah.
Alrighty. Yeah, that's part of racing. The qualifying.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what is racing in Trans Am like? If you've ever done it.
Never done it. Never done it, actually, Doug.
Alrighty then. Have you ever raced in IMSA?
He's had 62 wins. He has been in 10 different Pro Series on 67 different tracks.
Yeah, IMSA Sports Car Racing was where we had the Corvette running. So IMSA races for sure. I've won a lot of IMSA races. Part of the Daytona 24-hour, the 12 hours of Sebring, which I've won, and that Petit Le Mans, which I was mentioning. That's all around IMSA Sports Car Racing. Yep.
Ah, cool. Have you ever driven in the Grand Am NASCAR Sports Car Series?
Yes, that was going back. That was part of it. So there was Grand Am. There's the Grand Am series. There was the IMSA series. All of the above. Yeah, I've done all of those between the mid-1990s and all the way up to today, essentially. Yeah, it just kept being renamed, but essentially it was IMSA, then it was this, then it was that, then it was the other. Cuba kept buying the series and selling the series, and yeah, so I did all that stuff. So I've won races in all those sections of the sport. Yes.
Nice. Have you ever raced at Road America?
Many times. Many times. I've won different races there. There's a big IMSA endurance race there. Kelly Collins and I won in the Corvette there. I also won in the international, there was a Corvette GT race there with IMSA a few years before that I won as well. That was in another Corvette. World Challenge stuff, the SCCA World Challenge stuff as well, which is now the SRO series, of course. I've done very well at Road America over the years. Won quite a few races there. I love that racetrack. It's my favorite racetrack in North America.
What I like about Road America when it comes to NASCAR is that the race is so unpredictable.
Oh yeah, I'd love to do the NASCAR race at Road America. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
It seems to be such a crash fest, though.
Yeah.
It just seems to be even more than most other places, unfortunately. Yeah. I know a couple of my buddies that have done the race there, and they've been somewhat disappointed, even if they've done well. Generally speaking, what ends their race is a crash. So it's like, it seems to be a bit of a crash fest. Yeah.
Yeah, and in 2011, there was a very confusing NASCAR finish where basically they used up all their green-white checkered finish attempts. And at first it looked like Michael McDowell was going to win. Then he ran out of gas, and then Justin Allgaier took it. He ran out of gas at the white flag, and then Ron Fellows took the lead. But then NASCAR penalized him for passing another competitor under caution.
Oh my goodness! Good grief! That sounds like a disaster. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a very confusing finish, and it took them like 20 minutes to come up with the official results.
That can happen.
It's a good restart. Good job.
Reed Sorensen to the inside of Fellows. Sorensen in the yellow car. That's for now second. He's going to squeeze by Elliott Sadler in the 2 to the inside of Fellows. Leffler's right behind him. Oh, contact there. Sadler and Fellows. McDowell.
Here they go again.
Almirola. That car's in the gravel trap. And it's not coming out.
Turn 6 right there, real slick portion of the racetrack. Fellows doing all they can to hold on. There goes Brian Scott around. He's stuck back there. We're racing back to the checker now.
Elliott Sadler jostled around a little bit. Fellows through to third. Here comes Villeneuve back in that 22 on Jason Leffler. Reed Sorensen is second. You see the gap back to Fellows in third. Villeneuve in fourth. Elliott Sadler's been shuffled back to 6th. Michael McDowell is 14th.
That's amazing. After all that contact, Jacques Villeneuve's up to 4th again now.
Caution. There is
now
the caution flag.
This might do it for Allgaier.
Got it off and
He's got to make it back.
Got it off. 4, I'm coasting.
Did a good job, man. Looks like 31 might be out.
Is he?
Yeah,
is he?
He's out.
Oh my goodness.
That's awful, man.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Justin Allgaier's out of fuel. Oh.
That's a heartbreaker.
Is Fellows going to win this thing?
Just started. Spin it over.
But he's going too fast.
Fellows is going too fast right here.
Yeah,
they shouldn't be allowing that.
I don't know what Fellows is doing.
It's supposed to be slowing down.
NASCAR is saying Ron Fellows is the leader of this race in the 7. He's got to make it up the hill to the finish line.
Just stay right there, bud.
I don't understand.
He didn't maintain his speed, so you're in good shape.
That's true. He did not
That's what
maintain
they're
his
saying
speed.
about the 32. He didn't maintain his speed.
I looked down and said, where did the 32 car go? And I couldn't believe that he was missing out of this pack.
So they're going to come to the checkered flag with Reed Sorensen alongside Ron Fellows, but it is going to be Fellows in the 7 at the yellow and checkered who will win what can only be described as a bizarre finish at Road America. NASCAR says they are reviewing the finish.
Well, the caution came out. Reed Sorensen backed off to what would be caution speed.
All right, there's Reed running second.
Okay, there the caution comes out. You see him waving it at the
There's
bridge.
the waving yellow.
And you can see the 7 car hasn't backed off at all. Just blows right by.
Elliott Sadler passing left.
Yeah, a lot of people passing here.
Now his
caution's out.
Is Leffler out of fuel there?
No, he drove it around all the way. I mean, he was never. He's wide open. Caution flag is out.
NASCAR has made the call for Reed Sorensen to go to victory lane.
That can happen, my friend. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Have you ever raced at Mosport?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've won at Mosport over the years several times as well. Love that place. One of the fastest tracks in North America. Brilliant racetrack. Love that place.
I've read on the internet that part of the reason Ron Fellows has done so good at Watkins Glen was because of his experience at Mosport.
Yeah, fast sweeping bends. Like I was saying to you about, fast sweeping bends at Sears Point. That's exactly. If you're fast at Mosport, you're going to be fast at Elkhart Lake. Ron was fast everywhere. Don't get me wrong, but I totally get that. If you learn to drive at Mosport, you are going to be comfortable driving any other racetrack that's slower corners, because that has no fear for you. And if you can control the car on fast corners, you're definitely okay on medium speed corners and slow corners. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And when you ran at Montreal in 2007, what was racing with Ron Fellows like?
Heard it from the drivers earlier. The story of the day today, brakes.
Brakes is the word of the weekend, for sure. It's got to be.
Well, it's one of the few tracks that Formula One goes to when they have problems making the brakes live the whole race. So, now you have a car that's 3 times as heavy with the same horsepower almost. It's just going to be a big deal.
You're definitely not going to be able to go hard the whole time. You're going to have to think about some level of finesse and making sure that the brakes don't get too hot. They don't wear out. They just get too hot.
Because on a street course, we're going 170, braking down to like 50 in 3 spots. So it just doesn't give the brakes enough time to cool. You can tell, you get a feel for the pedal kind of gets a little bit long, and that's when you got to back off and make sure you cook them for good. And if the fluid gets too hot, there's no getting it back.
So patience would be a big piece of, at least as I see coming into this weekend, being smart, taking care of your car, taking care of your brakes, and waiting for the moment that really counts, which is only that last lap in racing.
Well, Harvick's in the third spot. He's got to handle Butch Leitzinger first. Here we go, coming down towards the green and the white. 1 lap remaining here at the Lysol 200.
And I'll tell you, Leitzinger hung back a little bit, so did Harvick, and they hung back too much.
Defensive line through turn 1. You're right, they gave up too much ground going down into turn number 1.
You mean on the track?
Yeah, on the track.
Well, I don't know that I don't know that I was ever aware of exactly who I was around at Montreal, but I worked my way up very much towards the front. But a lot of it would also be on pit stops. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
So it's not like, I was racing somebody in particular. I remember having a really good run with Tony Stewart in the 2011 race at Sears Point. And, Tony, quote unquote, has a reputation. And of course I was aware of that. And my team is saying, that's Tony. And of course I knew it was the number 14 car, right?
Yeah.
That's Tony. And I was like, he was right by the side of me. So I didn't think anything. I'm thinking, okay, it's Tony. He knows what he's doing. He's a great road racer. And we went all the way down from turn 7, side by side, through 8, through 9, through 10, to 11. He never touched me. We were an inch apart, and I was trying my best to just keep my line. He kept his line, and you know what I mean? Tony's just a racer. He's a racer. He wouldn't give up 1 inch of nothing, and I was trying my best not to give up 1 inch of anything, but he was absolutely solid. Solid, good racer. I wish I'd been able to race with him more. It was great. It was great. So sometimes you're aware of who you're around, but a lot of times, Doug, you're just not aware of who it is. You just need to, what it is, it's a car, and if it's in the way, you want to pass it.
That's the racer's feeling.
If you start thinking about who's in it, sometimes it alters the way you might drive, so you don't want to do that,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What is your favorite classic film involving motor racing between Days of Thunder, The Love Bug, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and Talladega Nights?
Probably The Love Bug, Herbie, because I was a kid and I loved that movie. That was awesome. Love that movie.
Yeah.
And then if you're talking classics, of course, Le Mans and Grand Prix, the movie Grand Prix. The others are good movies and all, but I put them, they are race movies kind of. But as a kid, I remember The Love Bug for sure.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, the Ferrari that I raced last weekend is number 53. So I christened the car Herberto because, it's 53, right? And it's a Ferrari, so we've got to have an Italian Herbert, so there you go.
Yeah, I've asked this question to previous drivers before, and I may need to add Grand Prix to the list of that question. So
yeah, Grand Prix is something pretty special. If you've seen, I'm sure you've seen it.
I have.
Your history is way up there in motor racing, so it's a must. It's a must, right?
Yeah. If I had to pick one, I'd have to say Grand Prix and Days of Thunder.
Yeah. I saw Days of Thunder, but it wouldn't be in my top for sure.
Yeah. When I was in high school, I was kind of known for my Jean Girard impersonation in Talladega Nights.
Yeah, no, I know where that is. I know where you're at. Yeah, that's funny. That's great.
You want to hear it?
Go ahead, man. I'm all for it. Yeah.
My name is Jean Girard, and I am a racing car driver just like you, except I am from Formula 1.
Very good. Nice.
Yeah.
I like it. Good one.
Yeah. And these are my last few questions for the chat.
Sure.
What was racing at Riverside like?
Oh, well, that was the first pro race I ever did, which was my second race ever. In my Renault Cup was my little Renault Cup car. I raced at a place called Holtville out in California on an old airfield there. And then I ended up at Riverside in the Renault Cup Series. We had 51 cars, and I qualified 18th out of 51. The series paid money, as I remember it now, to 25th. I think a 25th place got $25. And I remember the back straightaway, the little Renaults were about 50 horsepower, stick-shift car, 50 horsepower. And it was just an unbelievable experience running there. I remember if we ran in a draft with 5 or 6 cars together, you could see 106 miles an hour on your speedo with this little 50 horsepower car. And if you didn't run in a draft and you tried to run by yourself, you were doing about 98. So you had to run in a draft in order not to be dead last, essentially. But I loved running at Riverside. It was a great experience.
Ah, cool.
Even in such a slow car, it was great racing. Yeah, it was great racing. Because everybody had basically the same car. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and the best driver there, from what I've read, was Dan Gurney. Back in the 60s, he was almost unbeatable there.
Oh, well, that may well be true, because Dan Gurney could certainly drive. Absolutely, he was a great driver.
Yeah, and you want to hear what Tommy Kendall told me about him in Riverside when I interviewed Kendall?
No, because Tommy would know him, yeah. I think I met him like once in a paddock somewhere. I was introduced to the gentleman. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and Tommy told me not only was Dan Gurney a ringer, but it was almost not fair, because when he drove at Riverside, we were all like, we know who's winning this one.
Yeah. No, that in itself is psychologically difficult to deal with, right? That's what I was saying about you don't want to know who's next to you, because psychologically you might start thinking about it, and you're already done.
Yeah, and that's just the thing, you know, drivers aren't there to make friends, they're there to win.
No, that's right. I mean, that's true. I mean, you've got to race fair, but
of course, yeah.
If you can, but some do, some are less so.
Yeah, some drivers are different, you know. But I personally believe in driving fair.
Yeah, I do for sure. I think, it's just, I think a lot of it comes to personality as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what is racing at Road Atlanta like?
Great track. It's another very fast racetrack. Petit Le Mans, I've won Petit Le Mans a couple of times. I've won other races there over the years. It's one of my favorite tracks, probably one of my top 5 favorite tracks in North America for sure.
That's cool.
Fast. Turn 12 there is memorable every time you go through it. Is it flat? Is it not? Can I make it flat out? Do I have to lift? You know, it's fantastic. It's a fantastic place.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into that turn that you mentioned to see what the action is like.
Turn 12. It's not scary. It's just, it's all on full respect.
Ah, cool. And this is the last one I'm going to ask before we conclude it. What was your reaction to being inducted in the Corvette Racing Hall of Fame?
Humbling. Very, very humbling. Very humbling experience. I think Ron Fellows went in the year before me, and I didn't expect anything. Having come here as a computer program with little expectation of ever being able to race, starting racing as I did, like with that little Renault Cup car, and driving it to the racetrack and sleeping in the car and doing all the other stuff. Once you move up through and you get paid to drive race cars for as many years as I've been paid to drive race cars, you're very thankful. And then when something like that happens, and it's sort of a fan appreciation, a Marks appreciation, and then it's the Corvette, the American sports car. I mean, it meant an awful lot, Doug. It really did mean an awful lot. And that's one of the reasons I'm in Bowling Green now, because of the fact that, that I've had opportunities, and the Corvette has been central to my professional racing career. It wasn't the start of it, but it's been part of it from the Corvette Challenge days to the old Escort series, to Tommy Morrison's racing Corvettes, to obviously the factory race team up until the last time I drove with Ron Fellows in his last race at Mosport, was his last Corvette race, was in 2007 in the C6R. So Ron's last race was with me in 2007. So the Hall of Fame, Corvette Hall of Fame, just a very humbling experience, wonderful experience being inducted.
That's great to hear, and there's no question you deserve it.
Thank you very much, Doug. Thank you so much, mate.
Yeah. Alrighty, thank you so much. But before you go, may I ask, how would you rate our interview on a scale of 1 to 10?
A thoroughly enjoyable 10.
Awesome. That's good to hear.
All right, Doug.
Alrighty, but one more thing. Yeah, one more thing.
Oh, yeah, sure.
If you'd like, I could burn the interview on a DVD for you and send it to you through the mail, the recording of our interview. Would you like that?
Yes, I would love to have a copy of that. That would be very nice of you.
Alrighty, I'll burn it on a DVD and I'll send it to you through the mail.
Thank you. Yeah, if you don't have my address, just tell me when you've got it done, and I'll send you an address to send it, mate.
Alrighty, that sounds good.
Thanks, Doug. All the best to you, lad.
All the best.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Cool. That turned out extremely well, and I'm very proud of it. Alrighty, turned out well. Thanks to all who joined me, and thanks for anyone that commented. Have a good one.